Hi, I'm Kristen Davis, and I want to know, are you a Charlotte? Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Are You a Charlotte? Today, we are going to talk about episode 104. It's in season 1, and it's called Valley of the 20-something Guys. And I love this episode so much, and I have a fantastic guest with me today. His name is Blakely Thornton. He's a super fan, and I love to follow him on Instagram. He's very funny, and TikTok, and he is... how he's known is your internet's mean best friend, which I find hysterical because I don't really perceive you as mean.
I don't either. Like, honestly,
Okay.
that was a headline that Hunger Magazine gave me when I was like,
Wow.
This is my first inference of like speaking as yourself in an interview. I'm like, oh, that's what you got from that.
That's
Got
super
it.
interesting. Okay, because I personally would not describe you as that way, though what I do love so much about you, many things. First of all, super smart, extremely insightful, very funny, but also you just say it like how you see it. And there's not a lot of kind of layers or nonsense. You're not trying to please anybody. And that's very refreshing and wonderful. So thank you.
I think my brand is, I call it see something, say something. I'm like, what? Oh, all right.
I love it. I love
That is what I
it.
feel
That's
about
what
this.
we need at this time, I think, in internet land. Because, like, to me, you're not mean. You're just honest.
Yeah, I'm like, I think there's no value. I always say like there's no value in not calling the thing. Because I'm like, what are we getting out of it? That's how we got here. We were all like,
100%.
it's okay. Let's use euphemisms. Like, well, now.
Right. But also, I feel like that created this land where, like, people could be mean. And because they were saying things kind of like, honestly, people were like, oh, amazing. When in fact, no, not really. They're really mean, but
Yeah.
also I think just the joy of people speaking freely, people respond to that.
Mm-hmm.
It's
I
interesting.
try to infuse some joy into it, like a laugh
You
to keep from
do.
crying. Like, oh,
Yes.
this is funny. Like,
You do. My 13-year-old loves you.
oh, thank you.
I know. She doesn't have Instagram, so I have to show her. So I pick and choose based on the subject matter, And she was like, out of everyone I've had, she was like, ah! It was so cute. It was so cute. So anyway, she wishes she was here. She wanted to skip school, but when I told her you were on Zoom, she was like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
But
I'm
she
not
will
gonna
be
not there
listening.
physically.
Yeah. So hi, Gemma. You're listening. Hello.
Hello, Gemma. A pleasure to meet you through the internet.
There you go. One day in person.
Welcome
All
full
right.
circle.
This is so exciting because I am really curious what you're going to be saying, and I really don't know. So let me
Okay.
just say that to everybody. It's not like we have had no contact other than me following him. Basically. And we do know, I think you know Molly, right? You know our costume designer, or Danny.
Yes,
You know
I've
someone.
actually visited the whole archive in Queens. Like, for
No
me as
way!
a young little like elder millennial gay boy, I was like, I remember these moments because I'm much more familiar with the series than I should be. Like, I remember the first episode I saw was, I think, like season 1, like when you guys are at the Hamptons and like Carrie finds out Big's dating someone else. She's on the cowboy hat on the beach.
Oh,
in the
yeah.
sparkle tank top. I
That's
was
a
like
good one.
in 7th grade, but for some reason, like me and all my straight football friends, like it was so, I didn't know Sex and the City was even like a gay thing, but like we
Wow.
all would watch it together I watched the series finale. We all were like, shut up, turned off basketball and watched the Carrie in Paris part 2 episode. And all these men are married with children. I don't know how. I feel like young boys like don't have that learned misogyny yet. But like Sex in the City and the OC, and I went to like an all boys prep school, was like,
Wow.
that was the show.
No way. Okay, you're like breaking new ground in terms of my perception of who was watching the show, because I had no idea that was happening either.
Well, I don't think it should have been. Like, if our parents had a handle on the room, like we were 12, like, what is that? Like, what's funky tasting spunk? And it's like a bunch of like teenage boys.
Valid question. Really valid question. But I don't think that's a bad thing,
No.
right? Like that might have been educational.
I think honestly, all the guys that watched it, like, were better with their girlfriends because they kind of had a more advanced
Oh, I love
into
that.
what the female experience was. Where, like,
Oh
other
my
boys didn't
God.
know,
Okay.
But like, they're like, oh, they kind of had the inside track.
That's amazing. That's amazing and wonderful. I mean, whenever men, like there was a time when it was predominantly women would talk to us like, oh, we love you. Then sometimes men would be like, oh, my girlfriend, makes me watch it. And we were like, that's okay. Cool. However, and we were always like secretly like, that's great. Like thank God the girlfriend's making him watch it because that's going to help. That's going to help the meeting of the sexes over the divide, the great divide. So I'm excited to hear. But you were in 7th grade, so that is really interesting. Okay.
Yes, I should not have been. Again, it was my. I think the series finale aired like the fall of my senior year in high school. I think it was like
Wow.
November 2003. So like I remember
Wow.
that. I remember
Wow.
like Barishnikov,
Wow.
Carrie, the
Yeah.
StarTAC phone.
I remember that too. What did you think of Barishnikov? And then we're going to go backwards in time, but just curious because I've been hearing some interesting takes on Barishnikov.
It's always interesting to see how you felt originally when you see it and then going and rewatching it. I think through both And Just Like That and then rewatching the original show on Netflix, everybody is kind of like contextualized differently.
Yeah.
Barishnikov, like I feel like I've dated men like him that are like thoroughly. I've dated a Parisian man who had a lot of things and was significantly older. Because I'm 39, so I guess I'm about Carrie's age at the end of the show.
Right.
I don't know. I feel like he's interesting. He was never the end game. I don't love how I feel like he was almost like I'm looking for the word, not a gaslighter, but almost like very much like a love bomber and then like abandoned.
Well, like to me, he's just super aloof. Like he makes Mr. Big seem like he's not aloof, which is interesting.
By comparison, Mr. Big's like, oh, he's amazing. But then you go back and look at early Mr. Big. I'm like, this man he was a boy before there was a word for it.
I mean, is he? Okay, so can you please define boy for me? Okay, because I'm confused.
I think a boy is just like a man who has a little bit of Peter Pan syndrome, has money, but also kind of like, he is consistent in his inconsistency. And I find that is very big for Carrie in the first few seasons. He's like, let's go, like, even this episode, let's go to a drink thing. Let's go to this, let's do that. Or like, but for me, like, just a man that gives you red flags, but right after the red flag is like an immediate excuse to keep you confused. Okay,
then I totally get it. See, I was confused by the boy part. I thought that the boy part meant like an unemployed, like boy, like a pool boy. I don't know what I thought in my brain.
A man who's in it to like keep you emotionally tethered.
Oh, okay. Well, I know all about
questioning.
This.
Like in this, I mean, we can go back to the episode, but like even like the phones in this episode. Yes. I feel like I grew up on this is the New York I was promised and then didn't get.
I know. I'm really sorry. I feel that way for so many people. But when they're actually in the bar and there are multiple people on a landline on an old-fashioned phone, what is happening?
I want to go back to that. Like Tina Fey, like I want to go to there. Like
I
got the end of it. Like I don't even remember Indie Sleaze, like 2010. It was right before everybody had a camera on their phone.
Yeah.
So it was still kind of like a little bit
very
wild.
Different times.
There was this club called Dark Room where like the bouncer was a drug dealer and you'd see like the whole cast of Gossip Girl. And like you can't do like I had like a fight with Sebastian Stan over a slice of pizza. Like you can't have that anymore.
No, it's so sad.
Because there's surveillance.
Yeah, you can't do nothing. I know. It's terrible. But when you see the bars, because I've been sober a long time, right? So I wasn't really going out except when we would film at these places. Yeah. And I'm not quite sure, especially in this particular episode, Valley of the 20-something Guys, I don't know where they are. Like, do those look like real bars to you?
I feel like New York bars, there's a consistency where there's always kind of like a hook. Whether it's like, I feel like Samantha through the PR lens, like, remember when you guys, like, there's bed, there's sushi, there's, which is all those things. And I feel like for me, like, that bar could come back now because I feel like there's a certain, like, movement especially from, like, Gen Z and people my age that are just tired of it. Like, I would go to a bar where, like, you had to check your phone at the door. And, like, if you needed something, there were literal, like, rotary phones.
Which would be amazing.
I would go.
We should open that.
It would be the hottest club in like Tribeca for like a year, It
would be fantastic. I agree. It would be fantastic. I mean, my feeling now, and I don't know if this is shaped by where we film for And Just Like That, because when we came back to do And Just Like That, it was post-COVID, like just barely post-COVID, right? Mm-hmm. So anywhere wanted us. Like it was shocking to us because it used to be that we'd have to kind of beg and plead and go through all these, hoops and pay huge amounts of money to get places because they were like, we don't know who you guys are in the beginning, right? But now the restaurants and the bars were like, please come, So we're filming at Daniel. Like we never could have gotten into Daniel, it's crazy. So we're filming it extremely posh, extremely beautiful places, not where we used to film, you know?
Well, now also with the full circleness of like, again, like of Sex and the City, of the movies, of and just like that, I feel like people who run these places have to be firmly aware of
Yeah.
the cachet they get by
Yeah.
you going there. So I feel like it
Yeah. Yeah.
must be a
Yeah. Thank God.
complete 360 experience or 180 for you guys of being like from
Yeah.
like 1998 to like 2024, being like,
Yeah.
oh, please come film at our hotel, use the penthouse, do whatever you want, like set it on fire.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's really nice. It's a nice difference. But sometimes I wonder, like, are we just elevated now to a point of almost like unobtainable? Whereas when you see the bars, especially that one, you know, the one where she goes to see Big to have the thing, the
Then
drink
she
thing.
walks 48 blocks in front of I have a problem with that. Okay.
Really?
As someone who's worn low, nobody's walking. That's
She
fantasy.
totally does. Sarah
48 blocks in
Jessica.
high heels in New York in fall.
And there is a theme, okay? Because you remember after Big dies, she walks like 80 blocks. She would totally do this. Sarah Jessica can totally do this. It's insane.
48 blocks in Manolos? I can't walk 48 blocks in driving loafers.
I know. I mean, I will say this. Our feet have suffered. Our feet, all of us collectively, are, you know, pretty much a mess. Like we could go to any podiatrist at any time and they'd be like, oh my God, you know. But at the time, like Sarah can run on the cobblestones. I mean, she is like an athlete, okay, in the heels.
That line threw me. I was like, 48 blocks?
I know.
I would have gotten in the cab, run out, not paid, and had the 20-year-old man pay. I'd be like,
I know,
oh,
isn't
my
it cute?
cab's
Like
outside.
with
Like,
the
have
cash
man.
too, because she's like, I left my cash. It's such a different world.
She's like, I left my. I'm like, what do you mean you left your cab?
Yeah, she got the cash
There was
out.
no
She put
Uber
it down.
yet.
No, there was no Uber. There was no, you didn't even pay cabs with credit card.
No, they wouldn't.
When I get in a cab, I'm like, do I have cash? And then I'm like, no, wait a minute. It's 2025.
What
oh my
a
God.
weird world. We're
Weird.
we're like, some establishments don't take it. I'm like, you don't take American money. Is this legal? Like,
I know. It's very
you have to,
discombobulating.
get rid of cash now. I'm like, when I have cash, I'm like, I need to find a place that takes it because many a thing doesn't. Like,
I know it's troubling. Let's go back to the episode because it's kind of fun because it is like a time machine, right?
Yes.
This particular one, the first season in general, and especially this particular one. So tell me, when did you personally come to New York City?
I personally came to New York City in the fall of 2009. So
Okay, so way later.
way later. When this episode originally aired, I was 12 years old. So like,
Wow.
1998. I looked it up because for me,
Okay.
Timothy Olyphant is justified, and I'm like,
Right.
oh,
And
he's
isn't
the,
he amazing?
he's the youngin in this. I looked
Could
it
you
up.
die
He's
though?
56.
Isn't he like incredible?
Yeah, he would have been 27, 28 when this episode was filmed. I'm like, wait, Timothy Olyphant was in his 20s, 30. Like he's aged very well. So good job to
I mean, right? With that hair now? Ooh, my
Kudos to
God.
you, Timothy
But listen,
Olyphant.
I really was like, at the time, I was like, that guy. Oh, God, that guy.
Yeah, wait.
Yeah,
how
he was
old
already
that?
married, you
Oh, he
know.
was?
Yes.
Good for him.
Adorably. I think he already had a bunch of kids even. And I was like, wow, you're so fascinating. And obviously so incredibly talented.
Yes.
And do you remember when, like, I mean, if I were her, I would totally pick him and I would just work on the apartment. I would just be like, let me do the apartment.
That was interesting to me because, again, I feel like I'm around. It's interesting, again, watching now at the age that you guys kind of were when the
Yeah.
series premiered.
Yeah.
So for me, like, I've had that recent experience where I've, like, gone on a date with, like, a 25, 26-year-old and, like, woken up in
Really?
his apartment the next day. And he had, like, I'm talking, like, mattress on the floor. I was like, wait. I thought you just had a low slung bed. And like in the light of day, you're like, whoa. I'm like, is this bed in the living? Do you have a roommate, sir? I was like, oh, no. Like,
But what happened? Were you like, no, I'm out of here?
oh, I was like, we woke up and I was like, let me order breakfast because I was hungry and now we have like Uber Eats. So I was like, okay,
Right.
let me do it. And he was so thankful that I ordered him breakfast. I was like, that's odd, which was very sweet. But I'm like, this is like $11, like, $20. Okay. And I was like, do you have any
no.
like, I was like, do you have any like sparkling water? Like, which was like, oh, that made a mistake. Then I like look
Wow.
around. I'm like, this bedroom's kind of big. And I realized there's just a mattress in the living room.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, it's a big studio. Okay. And then I'm like, but then there's another. I'm like, oh, you have a roommate? Oh, so like I got the stuff, like ate my breakfast. I was like, this has been sweet, sweetie. Like, you're doing great, sweetie, Kris Jenner. And like kind of like slowly backed up, never to see that man again.
Oh, I feel bad.
It was like, but he was super. I was just like, we're in different places in life. And like, I just like,
Yes.
great person. Texted a couple of times afterwards. I was like, I can't. At 39, I for the most part cannot do roommates.
Roommates are definitely a problem for sure. But I mean, when I think back to this time in life, for sure, there were people
Oh,
who had
100%.
roommates, and that could be problematic for sure. But it's also like, I do think in the episode there, first of all, I don't know if you've listened to my podcast or whatever. I have
I
not
have.
sink these episodes. Thank you so much. I've not seen these episodes since way back, right?
Yeah.
And I, in my mind, really thought that the first season was just like, what? Like all over the place, and not really formed. But now I'm looking back on it and I have a whole new appreciation. Like it's not perfect by any means, but it's all there. It's all there and it's
Oh, your
interesting.
characteristics are surprisingly like blunt in the beginning. Even when you had that date come to the bar and they were like, he was the perfect guy for Charlotte. Like he had money, manners, and like a job or something. And I was
Something
like,
like-
this. And I was like, this is the original. Like, have you heard that new like? It's like a meme, like looking for a man in finance, 6'5". Like I'm like, Charlotte's that original girl. Like Charlotte would have
That's
been the girl
true.
saying that.
That's so true.
you
That's
were
so true.
30 years ahead of time. I'm like, Charlotte was the original, like looking for a
So
man
true.
in
And I
finance.
was so criticized at the time. I don't mean me. I mean Charlotte. Like
character.
everyone's like, she's so boring. She's so boring. And I was like, yeah, just wait. Which, I'm just happy it worked out, right? But like at the time, everyone thought that the other three were so much more interesting and obviously very powerful. And I was much more kind of traditional. But now I think people are rediscovering these things and talking more openly about these things, I think, maybe.
Oh, exactly. I feel like it's
Yeah.
interesting because the zeitgeist, I feel like you can almost tell where the cultural zeitgeist is by which one of your characters they favor. And it almost
That's a
like
good
swings
point.
like this in a circle because like everyone hated Miranda and then she said, oh, boring. And then it was like, wait, having a job and some sense and like dressing in YSL, actually amazing. Then everybody hates Charlotte. Then it's like, actually, wait, like liking love and wanting something. But actually, Charlotte's like almost like very secretly like bohemian and aware. When as it moves forward, or like everybody hates Carrie, and then it's like but it's like whatever. She's like making choices. Everybody hates Samantha. Just depending on where the zeitgeist is in relation to women,
Yeah.
it like swings back and forth to all of you. Because I've always
point.
stood very strong and like I am a fucking Miranda. Like I like my
Are you?
job.
What?
I find but everybody says different. But I find myself to be a Miranda.
Wait,
Like,
what does everyone say?
they're
Samantha.
they're just everyone obviously leans me towards probably a Samantha in terms of like imagery and probably because I curse and I'm very sex positive. But for me,
Right.
I'm just like actually like I like having a job. I like stability. Like men are very much like secondary to me doing what I want to do. Like,
Got
oh,
it,
you're
got
great, but,
it.
like, you don't
Practical.
you don't complete me. But if you're
Ooh.
additive, that's good. And I feel like from Skipper to Steve, the SOS
Yes.
of all of it.
Yes. Though
There's
there were a
actually a
lot of
through
guys in
line.
between there.
Like Skipper's the original Steve. Like Skipper fell so Steve could walk.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Though Skipper, when I look back at this, is hysterical in a way that I just didn't even really perceive at all in the beginning. He's like a flailing.
I burst out laughing because in season 1 you guys still had the like the talk to camera with the random
Yes.
people. So the basketball scene in this just threw me back to the 90s so hard because it was just like, oh, they filmed this like a Nike commercial. It's like, bros, because I
They
have
think
never
they
seen.
are. It's
I have never seen white men in their 20s in a park actually
in the
playing
cage.
basketball.
They're in the cage.
They're in like the
on
cage.
6th Avenue.
Like
Yeah.
that's like a real thing. But I'm just there like, oh, women. and like Skipper's there? I was like,
I
Skipper
know.
can't.
Trying to make a basket.
I was
Oh
like,
my
Skipper
God.
can't walk and chew gum. Like I know this for facts about that character.
And also, I didn't realize, but I saw it again when I watched, that the guys in the bar, in the 20-something bar when she goes back, are the same guys on the basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Which is amazing. Like, we were thinking in such interesting ways at the time.
There's
but they
some
do say some
universal-
crazy things. Like, they say, like, that kid who's 17 says smart.
It was or like they remind me of my mom. What?
I know.
That's disgusting. Like why would you say, like go to
But
therapy?
and this is when we're like, I feel as a show that we're just trying to be like aggressively non-judgmental. Do you know what I mean? Like we're just like, whatever these dudes say, we're not going to judge them. Whereas when I look at them, I'm like, they're awful.
Oh yeah.
Right?
That's the
Awful.
90s. Like, oh, men are doing whatever. I'm like, these are horrible human beings.
Right?
And that was the dating pool. But that was also like, it's enigmatic. It's like, it's representative of the culture at the time.
Yeah,
It
it
was
really
like,
is.
just the amount of times that interestingly enough, even like, I remember the Chris Rock show in 2000 when you guys had like just been on the cover of something together. And there was
Yeah.
like literally some like white male pundit like actively calling you guys whores. It was so
Oh, this
strange.
is what it was
I
like.
was
Yeah.
like, wait, what? I remember being like 15, like 1999,
Was it
2000.
Bill O'Reilly?
And yes.
Because
And
Bill O'Reilly came up to me in an event and he said, he's really tall, right?
yeah,
And he said, if I ever see Darren Star, I'm going to punch him in the face. And I was like,
you're
huh?
gonna commit a hate crime? Cool.
What? I was just like, what's happening? And he goes, I can't believe what he makes you guys do. And I was like, we really love our show. Like, we're fine. We're fine. Thank you, sir. I was very confused. He was like aggressively critical.
That's such a
And
microcosm of culture, though. Like a
right.
crazy misogynist, like actually like verbally assaulting you about how they're gonna help you, and you're like, I'm good.
I know. And then, like, what happens with him happens with him. I mean, it's fascinating, right? It's
Right.
fascinating. It's very
A call's
fascinating.
coming from inside the house, Bill.
100%.
From the
So
bar.
let me ask you this, though. Let's talk about Big and Carrie because
Yes.
I need like outside interpretation. Because for me, also, I'm looking back on it and I am kind of like amazed and confused a little bit about it. Like, I wasn't thinking objectively at all about it at the
Mhm.
time. I fully understood that they had chemistry and that was really what mattered or whatever. And also I think he looks a little sad.
Mhm.
Like part of me I just want to take care of him, but I mean this is me / Charlotte, obviously. But like I had forgotten the very slow kind of
It was
dance
truly
they
like
do.
a very slow burn. It's very
Yeah.
interesting, and I feel like that whole kind of like non-committal again, like man boy. Because for me, like I feel like in 2025, if you're a man in your 40s who's like divorced or makes money, it's like you need to like be able to be in tune with your feelings and say, I like you. This is a date. Like that's a
Yeah,
low bar. But
for
I feel like
sure.
he was just like, oh, it's a drinks thing. Oh, and there really was a true cat and mouse. Even like when his friend came to
Ew.
dinner. And I was like,
Awful.
oh, but I love that Carrie did that. She was like, I'm goodbye. Like,
Smart.
are you fucking kidding me? Like, are you
I
serious?
know.
And I'm like,
She's so smart.
but for a man in his 40s to pull that is
Right?
is like insane. And I'm like,
But
it's probably more common than we would think, but like,
oh, I think so. I think men
yeah.
do all kind of weird shit. But I also think that the person that's based on was a very, very powerful person in New
Hmm.
York in the 90s, right? So we knew that. And it was written in there. And I don't know when you're watching it if you can really tell. But when men are at a certain level of money and power structure, they're just
Hmm.
like, I can do whatever I want to do. And you're going to follow along, lady friend,
Exactly.
because you're lucky. But she's like, no, I'm not going to do that. Here's my money, buy you some drinks. But she's charming about it.
But I
Like she's
think that
got
also,
game.
I think that also might have been like when I look back on it, a very like the look on his face when viewed through the lens of their entire relationship. I think that might have been the moment where he decided to take her seriously because it was
Good
actually an
point.
expression of self-worth. Because I
Totally.
feel like if Carrie stays through that date, like that's actually a really pivotal moment. If she's like, "Cool, I'll sit here with your divorced friend while he hits on people," then
Ew.
you're very much like that's a very clear bet. Like it's a tell of what you will and will not accept. And for her to be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you're with your friend," I'm not gonna tell you how fucking stupid this is. I'm not
Right.
gonna tell you how incensed this makes me. I'm
Right.
gonna leave very casually with a smile, buy
Right.
your drink, and let you
Right.
figure out how dumb you look right now. And I
Right.
think that's the moment where
Like
he was
she's
like,
amazing. Carrie's
right? Just
amazing.
like, you know what? And she's like, and you can hear her in her head, like, am I confused? But like, it's actually like we're getting the vulnerability of that moment as like the
Right.
audience with the
Right.
voiceover. But what he's
Right.
getting is a woman being like, nothing, like in the most easy breezy, beautiful cover girl
Right.
way, being
She's
like, I
easy
don't f with
breezy.
this.
Yes.
And he's like,
Yes.
wait. Okay. I think like that in my mind when I watched it back yesterday, it was like that's the moment I think he kind of like fell in love or the game became real. Because the first three episodes, he's an idea, he's a nickname,
Right.
playing with her. Miranda can't figure it out, and she was number one in litigation. She's like
Right.
Miranda's
Right.
confused by
Right. I
him.
love that. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
she's like, no, thank you. And he's like, oh, okay, cool.
then they see each other again, and then she's walking away, and she's like, oh, it would have been so cool if I didn't look back.
Exactly.
Which is also so good. But I mean, the other thing that I think when I'm looking at it is like their chemistry is so strong.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that?
I think they would definitely like whatever version of quote unquote soulmates there are. Like when I look at it now at my age through it, like I think the women are each other's soulmates and the men are additive to their lives. I think it's actually a love story between four women in reality. Like it's an expression of platonic love, which makes the Sex and the City ironic aspect of it.
Yes.
But their chemistry is super strong as like actors, as characters. You know, there's something where like even the way he just keeps orbiting her in the opening, like we saw each other at a bris, we saw each other at this, and then we finally decided to like it made me miss the meet cute because nowadays it's like somebody follows you on Tinder or Instagram.
Yeah, no, I know. And we don't even have rom-coms anymore. Them, you know? Really. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the only rom-coms they're making now are like older women, younger men, which I'm so fascinated by. So fascinated by. Let's talk for a second about Charlotte because I feel this is the first good storyline that Charlotte gets, and I remember it all so clearly. I remember literally dying when we had to do the read-through, literally dying when I first read the script, like, oh my God, I've been wanting a storyline, and now this is it! I'm gonna go.
I mean, honestly, hyper-realistic, and to be real, especially as a gay man, timeless.
And I mean, if you think about it now, like Nikki Glazer stands up in her sitcom, stand-up, does a whole section on it where she gives like instructions, right?
Exactly.
But like back then, you didn't say those words.
Oh no, that was crazy. And she's just like, yeah, let's do it the regular way. And like, that's crazy. Like, again, you guys are just broaching topics that have become like really trailblazing. Because again, I feel like just dating in regards to anal sex is timeless, universal. It knows no demographic.
I know, but it's so funny that we're even saying this. Like, it never would have crossed my mind at the time. I just thought, like, wow, I'm going to have to just get through this because I need a storyline and I need them to write for Charlotte. And like when I was with Michael Patrick on the podcast and we talk about, he remembers us at the read through because every episode still we do like a old fashioned read through so that he can hear it. And you have to really perform. Like, you have to say it loud. You can't just like mumble into your little microphone. No. You have to like hit those jokes or he will cut them, right? It's like cutthroat type read through, right? I try to explain this to my young pretend children, like, please be louder at the read through so that your stuff doesn't get cut.
Yeah.
You know, and they're like, what? But anyway, back then we couldn't get through it. The four of us were like falling off our chairs, you know? Which has happened once since then when I had to say like some crazy thing to Harry and just like that. I can't even remember what it is. I blocked it out. But like the four of us sometimes just get the laugh so hard. So when we went to film in the really, really old cab, like there are some old cars in the show, but like this cab was like 1975.
I rewound that scene because I was like, are they in a horse-drawn carriage? Like, I like the background of it. I was like, what is that?
It is an old cab that had enough room for all four of us, and the DP and the director are in the front seat with the handheld camera perched on the back of the front seat, which is a, like banquette or whatever you would call it in a car, right?
What it reminded me of was, remember Taxi Cab Confessions?
Yes!
That might have been airing at the same time. But
I think it was.
I was like, this feels like Taxi Cab Confessions.
100%.
Another thing I should not have been watching and should not remember based on my age.
I had forgotten about that. That was a good thing. That was fascinating. It was like that. So, and that guy who plays the cab driver is so great. So our director and our DP are there. They're like hiding under the camera, and then they'd like, put their heads up and give us a note. And then we would have to go back around to do each take so that the background matched, which is funny because you can't really see anything, but like these are the things that we took seriously. So I never said the real words that I'm supposed to say until the take that we were rolling because I was just mortified. All right. So we're doing, it's like, they're like, this is it. We're going to do it. So we go to do it. I can't say the words. I up my line because I can't say the words. And I was so embarrassed because then we had to go around the whole of the time. And Sarah Jessica's like, it's okay. It'll be okay. You can do it. And then, of course, we pick up each one. And then my reaction when she's like, we're going to go to, whatever Miranda's address is. And I'm like, no. And then they're like, we're going to Samantha's. I'm like, no. Like, it's very funny and very Charlotte,
I mean, it is. It very much was. I think it was very Charlotte. Like, and again, Charlotte has some of the more interesting lines and also just ends up her arc is interesting because I feel like you are all such 360 human beings that but were packaged in very palatable archetypes for the time.
Yeah. I mean, we're only 360 beings because of our writers working so hard over the years. And, we had Michael Patrick, but so many women.
And I feel like everything kind of like slowly exposes itself when they're giving you archetypes. And obviously those archetypes have lasted for decades now through Girls or like other Michael Patrick King shows like A Younger or like a Emily in
That's Darren's
Paris.
show.
Even
Yeah,
those things of
Darren's show.
it's one girl, two guys, and then like the actual world around her ends up being more important than those men, which is a very interesting thing that I've seen in those kind of in Darren Star, Michael Patrick King,
Right.
etc.
Right.
But also
No,
just,
that's a good point. That's a good
down to
point.
Twilight or Hunger Games.
Oh my
I feel like
gosh.
those are kind
Yeah.
of Sex and the City coded where it's like, which guy do I choose? And like my friends actually helped me with that. Like
That's so interesting. I never
kind
thought
see
of that.
through line. But yeah,
Yeah.
Charlotte's been dealing with everything, but she deals with everything through, I feel like, a bohemian Greenwich lens. That's what I call it. Like she was raised in Greenwich, those are her mores, and that's what she's been told to like. But I feel
It's
like
true.
Charlotte is actually a character through the entire series that just slowly becomes more herself to the point where you get to like and just like that, and she's like hyper bohemian and buying her kids condoms. Like that's that's
I
a
know. It's
wild
so
arc where
interesting.
she's like, I want a man. Now she's like, okay, do it in the house. Don't get pregnant. Like,
I know. It's so
is a
crazy.
journey.
But I do think that's like a very relatable trajectory. You know what I mean? Like, you kind of like that's how also I think her friends have influenced her, because people are still like, well, why were you friends with them in the beginning? I'm like, why wouldn't I be? Because she wants to be them. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, or even the episode, there was a later episode, I think, where after she maybe gets divorced or she's with Trey, where she's like, goes back to the girls with Greenwich and she's like, I hate these bitches.
oh,
I
yeah.
don't know.
She realizes she's the Samantha of
Yeah,
that
she's
group.
like,
and
oh,
she throws
yeah,
the
it was
money
her
at
Samantha
them.
fighting about sex. And then she's like, wait, these girls suck. Like, but
Right. That episode is how I ended up at the Jacques Mousse show in Nice.
oh, wow. I remember that. I literally,
Yeah,
I was
he
like,
had a
okay.
picture. Simone had a picture of me with, my young self in like a tank top with the sweater tied, like so preppy, and that was the inspiration. He wanted me to wear that. I'm like, babe, it's so many years ago. I can't wear that tank top. He was like, no. He was so sweet. It's like just maybe a shirt, But that was his whole inspiration, which I was like, how random, but also how incredibly flattering.
Yeah. I mean, that's
Yeah.
so funny that like you guys have been living these moments or moments that you might have forgotten are such canon or like personality defining things for now a new generation of creatives that like you're
I
now
know.
working with. Like that is
Which is
that's
amazing.
very interesting to me.
We would never have, it never would have entered our mind. Like at this point still, this aired in 1998, right? Which is hysterical. Nothing had aired yet before this first season. We filmed the whole first season without anything on the air and no one knew what we were. So we weren't borrowing clothes at this point. Like we were hoping one day maybe we could borrow some clothes, from somebody. Like none of that had happened. It was a different world. But I have another thing I want to tell you about. So the scene after the cab scene, and I go back to the guy who's played by Josh Stenberg, who's a great actor. Like, did you watch Fleischman is in Trouble? Is that what it's called? Fleischman is in Trouble?
I did.
He's on there. He's really scary.
That
He's
was a
Claire's
very
new guy.
disconcerting series.
Right? I know, but so good. So good. He's a great actor. He's been in so many things. I should have looked this up so I could list his things, but he's great. And he was that guy, the guy who wanted me to do the thing I didn't want to do, which I'm just not going to say. So we filmed that scene. I still have that shiny blouse. I still have all these clothes from back then, which is kind of funny because they're so boring, but I still have them. And we filmed that scene, and I had been in acting class for like 20 years at this point, right? Before the show, got going. So to me, in acting class, they're always talking about high stakes, high stakes, high stakes. So I'm thinking about how much she wants to get married, how this guy is so perfect, but he wants her to do this thing, and how upsetting that would be, whatever. So I'm very emotional. Darren came to me and said, babe, we got to refilm that. And I'm like, what? I think it's the only time in my life I've had to reshoot a scene based on my performance. And he said, listen, this is just one guy. There's another guy around the corner.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? what? Like, to me, I did not understand that. Like, as a human being, I didn't understand that. And I didn't understand that from acting perspective, but also I didn't really know these girls yet. Like, there are real girls that they were based on. I don't know about that. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, oh, God, there's another guy around the corner? Really? For Charlotte? Like, this is what she thinks? And he's like, yes, we've got to reshoot this. I'm like, okay. So we did. It's the only scene, thank God, in my career.
That's crazy.
I know, because he did not want me to have the high stakes, which I had never really been told, like, don't have high stakes. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, that also for the time period, that scene is groundbreaking, one.
I'm glad.
And two, I wanted to say, like, also for me, rewatching the series, it's so interesting, and I'm not sure if you've had a guest say this yet, how much almost, like, my, like, coming out is coded with watching you guys date. Because, like, as a kid, I'm, like, sitting here watching all these episodes, and, like, you're seeing sex for the first time. And I heard, like, now it's, like, triggering me watching the first season. I'm like, oh, this is when I first realized I was attracted to dudes. I wasn't saying anything, but I was like,
wow,
ooh, like, that guy's hot. Okay. I was like, I'm also looking for a man that's 6'5" in finance. So I was like, and I feel like Sex and the City kind of like taught me I was gay before I was even gay. Because especially for me, like Samantha's sex scenes are very much like I literally remember being 13 and watching her have sex with that fireman and and the camera spinning around, and I was like,
yeah, that was good.
Interested in his butt.
Glad we could be of help.
You know, so there's so many levels. I feel like everybody like I'm sure you hate hearing people say like, "Oh, we grew up with you," because we're still like experiencing it. Like,
nah, I don't mind.
I still need my LTW Charlotte spinoff. I just want you guys as crazy like Spence moms. Like going and doing things like that'd
be great. Oh, you're gonna love the first episode then when we come back. We're on a little adventure, me and LTW. We do have a good time. And also, I personally, not that I'm ever wanting anyone to spin anything off from us. I always want to be there, right? But like LTW could actually just have her own spinoff because her whole family is so fascinating.
I've enjoyed the whole thing. I'm also like, I think I heard you guys talking on like one of the last episodes about like the crazy reaction to like Miranda, but I'm like, that's what happens, guys.
Thank you.
Have friends that make crazy fucking decisions and you like them, and they are the catalyst for your life. Even like Charlotte, I remember when Miranda first gets with Che and you're at the picnic and you're like, huh? So explain what is happening with you. But I think that's what I would like. Again, that's Charlotte in that growth, calling the thing. Like Carrie will be pithy, she'll still make a punch, but Carrie's not going to cut through and be like, what the fuck is going on?
It's true, but can I tell you about that scene? So Cynthia was directing that episode, which is so crazy to remember, right? So she's in it. It's a big episode. She's also directing it. So when I read that scene, I thought that Charlotte was being like kind of supportive, but gently questioning, you know, like how she does sometimes. Like, are you sure? We get there and Michael Patrick's like, yell at her. I'm like, what? What? We're down in Battery Park. And he's like, yell at her. I'm like, I can't yell at her. I'm so scared. She looks so mad. Like, she looks so mad at me, you know? And, you know, we have lost all boundaries between our personal and professional selves, right? Yeah. He's like, no, you got to yell at her because this is shocking. And I'm like, you're right, I guess. I mean, I thought it was all very exciting, but that has more to do with me, I guess, right? That she took this big leap, you know? Obviously, not everybody feels that way, and people still have very strong feelings about it. Very strong
Incredibly
feelings.
Strong.
It's crazy. But I also take that as a compliment. Like, we're 30 years later almost, and people have strong feelings. Hallelujah.
People do feel, I think it's got to be interesting for you almost like, and I'm sure we'll discuss it at a later date. I'm sure I'll meet you at some point in this life.
Yay! You got to come to the set, babe.
People feeling like they have ownership over you guys and what you do, or like something like even like in the fan reactions, like even I'll admit the first season and Just Like That, I was like, what? I'm like, wait, actually, it's been 20 something years. Like there are going to be different people. There's going to be different feel. Relationships change. Or like if I'm also people are often looking for. I think people don't like change, and I think all they have when you guys sign off, whether it was 2003 or the end of the second movie, is like their idea of what's happened to you. And when that's different, instead of like reconciling it, they're like, no, be what you were in 2003.
I know. I feel bad. But the truth is if we were what we were in 2003, nobody would want to see that.
Exactly.
That would be sad.
You know?
Yeah, no, we had to create something new, and we're just really lucky that we even get to do it in this crazy world that we're living in. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
we were lucky in the beginning because in the beginning, we were old, you know? That's what's also so funny when you rewatch. Like, we look like little tiny children, but
Children,
we were
so
over
young.
30, which was like shocking, right? That there'd be a show where a bunch of 30 somethings were like stomping around New York in high heels. People were like, what? Like, it like was mind blowing,
But it's
you
so
know?
funny how, like, honestly, again, it is kind of universal because when I go back and look at it and kind of like that episode triggered my memory of the rest of the seasons. Like, I've had a lot of the things that happened to me. Like, my friends have kids now, and I went in
Yes.
and I had a blood red Chanel boy bag, and then one of the little kids spilled yogurt on it, and I was
Oh
like,
no.
I've never wanted to like throat punch a 4-year-old, but I was like, excuse me. And one of the moms was like, well, it wasn't the mom who was throwing the party was my friend, but
Right.
it was the mom of the girl that did it who was very badly behaved. Was like, well, we don't expend money on like things like that. And I'm like, bitch, you live in
Oh
Brentwood.
God.
You live in fucking Brentwood. What are you talking about? Your house is 8 million American dollars. Like,
Totally.
I'm gonna go light your Tesla on fire and see how you feel about that. So I feel like that was like the Carrie Shoe episode where it's like, don't judge
Totally.
me and my life or like what I want. And I also think almost being like a gay man is like being a single gay woman in the 90s. So there's like people are used to it. Like they're used to the idea of you, but will
Yeah.
challenge you in very strange ways that you're like, excuse me, I'm just here existing. Even like
So
people are, do you want
true.
kids? I'm like, I don't want kids. I like kids. No. Do I want them? Not really.
Right.
And I
Right.
think that's very similar to what all of your characters are going through in different capacities, whether it's Samantha being like, "Fuck no," Carrie kind of evolving with it, Charlotte being like, this is the goal, you know,
Right. 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 Right.
and Miranda just kind of having had one, like, oh, well, here we go. Whoopsie daisy. Now I
Right.
got to raise a kid. Now I have a Brady.
Totally. And I also
And
think, like Michael Patrick talked about, he really felt at the time that he came, 1997, that being a gay man, like he felt the other in the way that
hmm
we single women at the time felt the other. But I
hmm
still feel like it's not that different now in a lot
I
of
don't think,
ways.
I think it's like, it's a very similar energy you get. And I feel like it's the energy of just basically like straight men not understanding you and
Yeah.
looking at the entire world through their purview and being like, oh,
Yeah.
you don't want this. It's almost like straight men are like Miranda Priestly, like everybody wants to be us. And we're like, no, we don't.
Totally. Yes, it is like that. I feel like that as a single woman. Yes.
You know?
Yes. And people are like, but why? Why? And I'm like, oh my God, please stop asking me why I am like
Even to this
this.
day, like when people ask the question, like they think it's a compliment or like I'll get it online or from friends or when on a first date, how are you single? That's not, maybe I was sick. Maybe I was not prioritizing romantic love. Maybe I
Right.
have standards. Maybe I get a fair amount of love from my friends of 30 years who maybe I want
Yes.
someone who's additive to my life, but like
Yes.
you're acting as if pairing off monogamously is the default is actually really, really presumptuous and really condescending. And
Yes.
I think that's why the spirit of the show continues on or like has been so seminally like forced in people's lives. It's almost like you're getting four versions of like being yourself, of like authentically being yourself and having friends that don't judge you. Because I think like
Absolutely.
seminal moments in all the episodes, whether it's this one, whether it's the Carrie blowjob, the FedEx guy, whether it's Charlotte getting mad about the pregnancy, it's like those moments when you like want to judge, but they come back and be like, that was rude of me to do that to you. Like actually, your
Right.
life is different than mine, and I think that's why people are so attached to these characters because like it happens in all the cycles of their lives through divorces, through marriages, through
Yeah.
babies, through cancer, through coming out as non-binary and moving to LA. You're just like, okay, I'm gonna question your decision making, but I'm not gonna come at it like my shit doesn't stink. And I like love that. And I think going back to this episode, you kind of like really feel it in a seminal way where again, like I'm gonna stand 10 toes down. This is where Carrie and Big fall in love because Carrie asserts her standards.
I
This is
think
where
you're
kind of
right.
Charlotte actually, when you think about it, like deals with the wildest stuff in the episode. Because even like for me, I was like, oh wow, like Samantha, you slept with a 20-year-old and like did it on your side. Like, like 1997 was a while. She's like, we did it on our side and on our back and on our tummies. I'm like, so you rolled over? This was crazy. Like Charlotte's
So
out
true.
here like dealing with butt sex, and you're like, ooh, I'm crazy because I did it on my left shoulder. Like it kind of like you're right. All
It's
this
true.
scene
It's
of everyone
true.
is there with Charlotte like dealing with bohemian shit through a more traditional lens and like
You're right. I like this take, Blakely. I'm down with it. I'm going to write down that whole last thing you said. I'm going to refer back to it, okay? When I get put on the spot. All right?
yeah,
Thank you.
of
Thank you for
course.
being with us.
Thank you for having me. This has been
You're
super
amazing.
fun. Yes,
Good
thank you.
travels out there, and we want to see you back here in LA.
Yes, I'll be back in LA soon, I think. I don't even know. Sometime soon, 2 weeks,
I
I
know
think.
you're a jet setter, babe.
We're trying.
I love it.